I think it's one of those cases where YouTube have just, like, it's a relatively new YouTube thing. But all the other ones, all the other streaming services all have some kind of, they want to charge you or put adverts in front of it. It's not like Google with its own model, isn't it? Basically, you just do it slightly better than everybody else. But they are missing apps at the moment. There we go. We have a live stream. Who's on first? Yeah. It's just, in some ways, it's a bit mad. I worry a little about what they're trying to do, like just the ambition of it in a way. But it's great. What? No, it's not. What I should do is get a slide, but you can put slides up onto the thing during the live broadcast.
Yeah, thanks.
We should probably swap seats.
Thanks to everyone for coming back after lunch. I'd just like to thank our sponsors, Skyscanner, who provided the lunch today and will do tomorrow. And you can get and there's also Skyscanner little bags out there if you want to take one home with you. They're very, very nice. So much to them. Right, we've got Eric from Mesh to talk about some of the mapping that's been going on in Edinburgh. I think a few hints already today about what's to come here and a lot of changes we've been seeing around Edinburgh. So I think we're probably all really interested to hear about what's been going on. So this is going to be for 45 minutes. And take it away, Eric. Thanks so much.
So first, there is just my name on the paper. I would like that Sophie and Richard just stand up for a minute because we work as a team, so just So it's about mapping and there are social histories. So we have a bunch of historians, and Richard is here as a project investigator. And we are a team with mainly Sophie and me, and then other people like Isa, for example, the board in our street, that's him. Leila as well, Martin Tomasi. So they worked for a few months for the project. Now they left. Now it's Michael Brown, and we have also a volunteer, Wilson Smith, who is retired, and probably today is surveying for together. So we have different partners, the NLS, the Edinburgh Council, the Royal Commission, but no, it's Historic Environment Scotland, Simpson Brown Architects, the World Heritage. The project is funded as a 3-year project funded by the HRC. So the disclaimer is what you see here, that's open data, open source, and open data, open source only. That's the philosophy of the project from day one, so that's why we choose absolute OpenStreetMap. In terms of things we will provide at the end, we will not go with semantic data, we will probably provide data as a CSV or the standard HTML or shapefiles or anything useful for our users. The offline is just to present what is mesh, because that's not triangulation like this morning in 3D or anything else. Mesh and OpenStreetMap, because look, that's a long story. We started to map, I think, in March last year. And Richard will talk about this, right, because that's the subject of the project. And we propose something to be. So mesh is the main objective is to create an atlas to have tools. So the atlas will have two forms, one online and another one as an hard copy. So we create also networks to link people. So that's why open data is quite crucial here. It's around 10 themes, so living, dying, eating and drinking, socializing, etc. So the constraint is that that's a 3-year project, so after 3 years we disappear, basically. So the idea is to build a robust historical GIS and to use open source tools, open data. And open data is probably more important than open source tools. You talked this morning about vector ties or raster ties. In 5 years' time, we probably not talk about that because the problem will be solved. There will be others, but if the data is here, we can still provide with other tools. That's not a problem. And the sustainability, we want to reach 5-10 years sustainability, but thanks to the NLS, we will post all the material at the end of the project. And at the end, the idea is to recreate the network with others. So we will talk about open data tools, open license, OpenStreetMap, the referencing process for the old map, data integration, and geocoding, historical geocoding. So it starts with historical needs. These drawings are the leaders here. And then after, we try to find some resources to know about these resources. And we have more and more resources digitized. So one solution could be to take real maps and to geocode that and to have another layer at the end. That's possible. But for us, it's just a 2D solution. It's copyrighted. Nobody can reuse that data, basically, to geocode it. So the idea is to use the wonderful resource provided by the NLS, so all the old maps and other resources coming from the NLS or the archives, and to put that and to create an historical geographic information system. We had 3 choices at the beginning to choose Google Maps or the survey or OpenStreetMap. So Google Maps, you know about that. You can see the images, that's just images. You can see the buildings here. There is nothing. And it's often empty in the suburbs. The other survey, if you want to use the open data, such as rural building, it's not really good. We can change the colors or and there is OpenStreetMap. And then when we started to look at it, there was a bit like this. So the shapes were here, but a bit distorted, or just nothing. Here, there's a table to compare basically what is open, what is not. And the good thing with OpenStreetMap is that, and we don't talk, I think, enough about that. It's just we don't talk about the tools associated to OpenStreetMap, because basically data without tools that's very difficult to use. That's if you haven't got the Lego box of this morning, you can provide tiles. I suppose that's not the only solution to provide tiles. And here, thanks to the old maps, what we can provide, and we are pretty sure that, is a good quality for OpenStreetMap. It's 1 to 3 meters. It's probably around 1. So we have plenty of historical maps, old plans. DLS, Geoff some plans. Richard, in his previous project with Stuart Nicol, just also some plans and then get that back to DLS, and everything is online now. And we use mainly 4 tone plans. First one is 49, 51, second one 76, third one 1893, and the last one 1940. The last one for all UK. What you have to know is the 3 first plans that you see here have been funded by the City Council, not by the Ordnance Survey. The Ordnance Survey did that, mapped that, but I was funded by citizens. So it's quite good to give that back. After, we have the limitation with the extent of this map, so we can go back in the past outside the boundaries of this map. And we use mainly two maps, the 93, 1893 and 1940 to 1940. That's great because we have all just numbers. Some of them have changed, but most of them are still here. So we can map them before going on the field, and then it saves a lot of time. And on this one, on the 1893, what you can see basically is the entrances. So on this one, on 1940, you have just one entrance with all the numbers, and on the other one, you have all the entrances, but not the numbers. So you can combine both of them. You have not the basement, or you have not the level 1. What we can see also, it's all the public houses, the banks, the old banks, etc. So when we reference a map, an old map, generally there is an offset, and there are global offsets and local offsets, and it's very difficult to manage. So some people say there's a best transformation, and yes, we have no residual errors, and it's great. But in fact, it's not true, and it doesn't work like this in practice. So it's just theory. So when we introduce that in SotM, the best thing in SotM is that you can move the map, so you can correct a local offset. If you use QGIS or any other GIS software, it's not possible. So SotM is great. So basically, this is the offset, and we can manage that. Here, what you can see is that we added the bay windows. The bay windows came from the 1893, and it's not on the 1940s. Even in the 1940s, the kind of generalization of the 1893. And then after, people wanted to know locally what we use as a meter to map things. Basically, we improve the roads first, and it gives the skeleton. And then after, we can start managing the offset of the old map in the 1940s. And here we map footprints and not rootprints, because the old Ordnance Survey maps provide that. And then to manage the offset, we use the lower elements, because that's not an auto photography, that's not an auto picture, it's not orthogonalized. So basically, you can see the facade. Sometimes you can see 2 facades like this, and the good position is not the roof. The good position is at the bottom of the facade. So we need to move that. So the old map can help with that. That's good. And after tracing the walls and the garden, the plots help to understand the differences, the offsets. And after, we can use also the old plots to trace the new buildings, because the new buildings are attached to the old plots, basically. That even we draw the boundaries, that's the same. Then we add tags like everyone. We go with residential, so it's normally that's house detached apartments, retail, so we map that with a quite good tagging. And then we go for a full survey. For the address, I think we met several times with the local team, the local team, the local OpenStreetMap team, and we agreed basically to map the addresses not in the building, but on the edge. Because when you have different addresses, one here the avenue and here the OpenStreetMap building, basically it's impossible to represent that here. So after, you can see in different towns, like in Belgium or in Germany, then map two nodes, but it's quite random, and it's not standardized. So the middle road is standardized, and we map on the edge. And then after, there is a shop. We map the shop in the middle. So there is a relation, but you have to understand that the host numbers will never change. It's quite sustainable. So nobody changed the map after that. People just switch. For example, Brian, well, his name is Surface. I don't know if he's here, but he switched over because before he mapped things and buildings. No, he updates the map. And that's very good for us because generally we do once per day. We update if we are in the neighborhood. Otherwise not. So local mappers will, great. So we have plenty of survey. That's just a small part of that. We release everything. That's another one. So that's quite big, and we printed all of that. The thing here is just to say to Google, to the other surveyor, to any other providers, we bought that street. And we did it. So that's ESA survey, for example, so that's in Farsi. And for example, for the blog, because he's a great surveyor, he just counted the steps and he knows the gap between the two. That's another one. And when there was nothing, for example, in the middle of the course, he drew things. So we surveyed addresses. So we mapped a bit of that. Now we mapped also Braxton, and we started in Stakeford. So we extend the map in the 1911 countries. Here, just to see the split of the buildings. That was September 2013, that's now. You can see the gardens, that's Leeds. And this morning we talked about the digital elevation model. And if you check here, this is not only pubs and banks, but benchmarks and elevations. So if you check on the field, you can still see the benchmark. And that's where you can remap that. So we provide, before the end of the year, a full digital elevation model and all the points to create that if you want to create that as another installation. That's free of charge. And that's the same elevation that we have on Edinburgh is the 14th most populated city in the UK. Basically, it requires 3 to 4 man years to map it fully with this accuracy, but using, and thank you, the NLS, because without the NLS, it's impossible to do that, and the Open Survey Maps with 19 volts, that's impossible. But once it's available, you can do that everywhere in Europe. So we announced 50,000 segments, 52,000 buildings, 50,000 addresses, etc. Basically, we have more addresses in Edinburgh than in the rest of Scotland. What we bought basically, so it represents 47,000 house numbers located at the door. It can be a basement and then if we move just once each street, it represents the distance Edinburgh, London, but I think we walked this twice, the street, so it's because we like Edinburgh, we go to London and we go back. And for the buildings, it represents a bit more than 200 American stadiums, the pool area. So is mapping Edinburgh in OSM a big challenge? Yes, because we have just 3 years and we didn't go back in time yet, so we have a lot of pressure. But it's certainly a big challenge, but what we try to do is to reorganize the bricks and to build the Edinburgh Castle, and to avoid that at the end of the project, as it happened on 20 January. Or to provide a proof that it's robust. The Urban Survey, it's OpenStreetMap, and you must. I work at a proof of the agency before, so I know the quality of the data. You can check marshment, that's the same. What you can see is just, and we talked about the other day with subscription. You have the pavement, but after all the pipes, and if you want to check the pipe, generally you measure that from the wall, so it's not linked to any GIS, it's another system. And that's the same thing with the plots. You check the deeds rather than checking the maps. So, and that's the same thing. And we didn't copy them, we copied the formula version. But it's good. What is the result is that basically that's the users. And what we saw is that, for example, like Brian or like Chris, they switch a bit to update the shops, the amenities, the points of interest, rather than mapping, extending the mapping. And mapping is still quite robust, and people believe in that, or just think that it's quite good, and they don't want to change that. The idea is really to update the map and to extend it. and no so well. It proves something. The meter can be applied everywhere in Scotland and in the UK. This is the city of Edinburgh. That's Perth. That's Elgin. That's the comparison between the area. It means that in less than 6 months, or less than 3 months, for example, for Elgin, pretty sure that it's mapped. It's probably, but it's they can save money on the end of the day. So others can do silly things, like you have roads in Edinburgh, you have pubs and bars, and if you follow the James Joyce stimulus, what I was called Dublin, where you check if you can cross the city without meeting with a pub or with a bar in a radius of 50 meters. So that's the first thing, and then after, if you clean that bit, there is a path, but you need to find your path. It's quite tricky, and some of them are basically to go from the meadows to Stockbridge, you need to go to Darwin, which is good because you can go to Thompson. It can be reused by others, academics, so we already help a project like Crash, so it saves a lot of money for them, and it will save a lot of money in the future. Public institution, I think Edinburgh City Council used that before, but they use that now as well, and more. For example, they have open data, but it's just spreadsheet, so if you want to sit when it's sunny here, outside, and drink coffee or beer or anything, well, generally that's more alcohol, you can create this kind of map in 2 seconds. So basically, they can transfer their data into open data, but geospatial open data. Here, that's the work we did with Arkham that provided us the full Canmore point of interest for Edinburgh, so that's nearly 20,000 points. So that's the first version with the open data, the map of the open data version. So it looks like this. It geocoded that manually years after years after years. That's the same thing, but with the geocoder, with basically the OpenStreetMap geocoder, and it looks quite promising. And then after you can also say this address, this point is not at the right place. And then you can create eventually at the end, in 10 minutes, once you have the data, this kind of website when you have just a new version of Canmore. What is the next step for us? It's to freeze OpenStreetMap when it's finished, and then to go back inside. What the idea is really to demolish, because we vectorize now, but we don't want to vectorize 10 maps. So it's your project to do that, but then after you need to do data integration. If you trade that road and that road because of the referencing, because of the errors in the old map, we'll add that as well. And then at the end, you need to say that this is the same as this. It takes, it took 20 years to the mapping agency to solve that problem, basically. So it's too long. So basically, the idea is really to demolish the current version and to go to another version. So we reinstall on our own server a new OpenStreetMap server, and we go with that one. We map the 1940s, and then we map the 1890s. The next version is also the geocoder. We use first nominative. But for example, in Darwin, you have the addresses, but you have not the roads which match with that. So if you have left name, right name, it doesn't work. Adloc, developed for Etalab by Johan Boniface in France, is super quick. You can have different geocoders in parallel. That's really easy to install. You don't damage your machine. That's a virtual environment. That's the same idea that comes on up. Well, not exactly the same, but kind of the same. And then after we can also add fake interpolated addresses to say, okay, it didn't exist, but we can give you the location. That's a fake one. It's the place. It's around that. And the good thing is that you can process misspelled addresses, which is not the case with others. So you need to create a proxy, which is not. We can geocode nearly addresses at the house number level until the beginning of the 19th century, as you can see on that map. And before that, that's a street level. So when we do the survey, we can realize that sometimes number 90 was number 90 everywhere on the door, on top of the door. And sometimes number 90 was. And then after we can do also some routing, so we geocode things, and then after we, for example, here you have a coal mine, you have all the miners, we can plot them on the map, and then after we can trace the And then after we create historical data, so it's boundaries, the Abercrombie reports that I've got the old map, so Richard will talk a bit more about that. So the boundaries, so we release the boundary rather than vectorize again the boundaries, we just copy paste the roads from OpenStreetMap, so we save time and we can update that quite easily. The Abercrombie has been done in the 40s, and then after you have plenty of information, so we digitize most of it already, and DNS, scan that, reference that as well, so thanks once again, well, thanks DNS. And then after there are also the post office directories, so basically you have names, that's old historical yellow pages for many towns. So what we did, that's new optical character recognition, and the idea now is to duplicate that. And now I want to, because the idea of the project is to talk about history, that's just the tool, and so Richard will talk about, they're going to talk about the history.
The most exciting thing about this for me, of course, is the productivity that develops for the historian. We have lists, tax lists, directories lists, all kinds of data sources, and it's very difficult to get a spatial understanding of these. So while we've gone through cultural terms, and literary terms, and various other kinds of terms in history, the spatial term remains one which historians have been seriously neglectful of, and this is part of the attempt to address that issue. You've seen the directories. Let's see what some of the results look like. So here, for example, in, as Eric says, 150 items in a second, we can find out the distribution of our bakers. And recently, after Doors Open Day, I did this for butchers, bakers, but not candlestick makers, but for spirit dealers, which is much more interesting. And the point that you can put the results up there, the point we have here is that we can say something about the distribution of these people. So, for example, what proportion of women we can derive from the interrogation in the directories. We can say something about that. And you can see that women are actually very important as the licensees and proprietresses of spirit merchants, the pub, basically pubs. And you can see something about the family composition and the corporate composition. So one of the things that's interesting to business is about the life and death of business, what in historians' terms called persistence. How long does something persist at a particular address over time, and what does that tell us? So where you have something here where you have two premises or more, the bakers are clearly a lot more engaged in multiple operations than you would get, say, among spirit merchants and certainly amongst the butchers. As it turns out, the co-op is the biggest player in both the bakery and butchery markets. And I must say, I was quite surprised by that. In the same sort of way, when we look at medics, dentists, vets, and opticians, chemists, pharmacists, we got a very clear different distribution to those. So we got all the doctors at the West End, pharmacists, all over the place in the early 1900s. So we can understand from that what we knew from historiographical sources, but we understand from that that the pharmacists were far more important to the new county Greenside, to the poor districts, in ministering to their medical needs, and that the medics were far more interested in making money at the West End. So the results begin to address historical issues and generate new ones. Move on now. So here are the spirit dealers, and those of you who attempted perambulation through Rose Street in 1910 would have had just about the same number of pubs to get to as you would do nowadays. But what we find here too is a fiendish growth in the number of pubs and centres for selling spirits. Again, these don't always correspond to our ideas of poor districts being deprived for some reason by means of poverty with poor nutrition and so on. It's too simple to think of drink concentration in areas associated with poverty. Here, Eric derived a really neat technique, which I think we'll see time and time again. Here we have the pubs, you can read for yourself. It says those that exist are in blue. That's now, from OpenStreetMap. And by going back to the maps and identifying where they were in the 1940s, we can see where they were in the 1940s. So you can see some have dropped out of the distribution. So we can do this for all kinds of different business activities or other professional or other interests. Here we wanted to make a nice point to the City Council. And actually embarrassing the City Council, good luck. But a serious point is that they have all their data. Eric abstracted the tables and shares from their site, but very often the headers and the columns are impenetrable and misunderstanding. You need a code book to understand it. So it's not just about open access, it's about some kind of simplification. So anyway, this is what you could have expected in 1944. You've got all over the city, and anyone with any historical background or common sense would tell you that you need that kind of relationship in the proximity between the lines for it to work, and anything else is rubbish. So we have a much more complex map here of various transport networks.
As you can see, the trunks, basically, the structure of the routes of the buses are the same, and the trunks.
And the numbers, that's the fun bit. So these are really important drivers for historical analysis. I think we've only just begun to scratch the surface of that in constructing this framework that Eric's been talking about. And the methodology, which he's outlined, I think will prove to be really powerful, not just for us as historians, but I think if we can open up some kind of dialogue of projects with other agencies, organizations, City Council, the National Registers of Art Records of Scotland, and so on, then that's where the productivity will come. And with you.
Yeah. So Chris is happy. It's building out like this when we started the project, and then it was like this. And basically, when we refurbish things, that's everywhere like this. Here we didn't put the garden yet. That's still we know where are the pockets. But for example, that's the one I show you in Marchmont. Here there was nothing, so we just put things. And if you zoom out, that's still here. All this area there was nothing before. There is something, and there is something adjustment. So at the moment, here when I talk about Wilson, there was Portobello, so basically there was empty, I think 4 months ago. Michael is finishing. Later I started to do the north, and then Michael joined the project, and then he's finishing the walls and that kind of thing. So you can see that some numbers we don't know where is the entrance. So basically the number is in the middle of the building. So when the surveyor goes on the field, you just tick where it's on the edge. It's much quicker than just we draw in 36, and then after it's a total mess. Here they just so here that's just the improvement. What you know about SotM content, but basically we didn't make any difference between Portobello or the city centre or any suburbs. Basically, we map equally the places. The geocoder is still based on nominations as well, and it's a bit too before the screen, but basically that's quite slow. You have to see, but comparatively to before, you can create maps in seconds with that. They're still quite slow, and there are still some automation. So after you can just display any map provided by DNS, and then now if we compare, we did that at the beginning. That was when we compared basically different geocoders. Google geocoder, so that the end is copyrighted. Here that's DL, and then here that's copyrighted as well. So here it takes some time, and you can't provide any batch geocoder online because that in the term of services, there is few to do that. Here, you need to be quite different with the printer, and it takes half of it. Here, it takes, I think, 10 minutes, and here it takes less than 10 minutes. So, in terms of results, it's a bit like this everywhere, but I show you the works normally. In blue, here, normally in blue, that's good stuff. We can see that sort of sign. And so you don't know, you would say, if we understand this, but here, just to see the advocate in 1861. So here you can see that this block was full of advocates, basically. And here. And once again, that's located. Then after, for example, let's quickly talk about that, but just he collected during years the flakes in Edinburgh.
These are decorative things affixed to the front of the facades of houses. I call them plaques, but they're not things associated with businesses. I'm interested in the residential ones. And to show you how overwhelmed I am by the now nearly 1,500 of these in Edinburgh, and I've been making a systematic comparison in Leicester with about 1,000 there. So I'm interested in the thematic nature of the decorative motifs, what are the messages which are being conveyed, and you'll see that there it points out here in this map that some are blank and some are not. And actually there are just as many blank ones, just completely devoid of any decoration. What's it mean? I don't know. I don't know, but I'm searching for an answer, but I find out, is the geography anything to do with it? Is it about class? Is it how the building offices work? I don't know, but it pushes me to look for answers.
Then we can do that here, where you talk about the medical patient. That's the same, once again, we can do that with many patients.
Can you turn them off and on? Turn them off and on. Here. That's all right. Yeah. Just turn the pharmacists on and then the GPs, and then we'll see what. Nobody needs to trust me. Take the rest off after that. Put the pharmacists on, take the rest off. So there is no geographical concentration to this view, but they are in the old time.
So for example, the current version of Arkham actually, but they improve Arkham. The new version could look like this. For example, you just go here, you click on this, you go on the Canmore website. You have the list and the map. Here I just added one picture for one particular address because I don't want to download everything from the website when I use that, so I just put one. But it's possible to have this kind of things for all of the business, and you can see where they are. You can also, when it's a place, we didn't do that, but to propose a polygon rather than just a point. We'll talk closer about that. Then after the tools, basically, they're just tools, but if you go to the NMS website, it's the good one, so you don't need that one, except if you want to see 4 maps at the same time, or more maps at night. And this one is a slider, so basically, you can choose 2 maps. Here. And you go in the city center, so you move Corbin Street, and then after you just move like this, and you can see that. We propose other things like the kind of things like high attached, you have the kind of all in the middle, and you'll be able to display any map or any satellite imagery or anything, that sort of thing. And then this one is not finished, but just a very small prototype, and I think that thing is difficult to see. But when you click on that, it creates a puzzle. and then after you play, and then after you can do that also with the NLS map at the same time. And if you you create that with any site and anywhere. So we will propose that just the kind of educational tools we can. So I think if I have time, I will propose also the equivalent for Pac-Man, not for everywhere, but just new terms of ideas. We have also other ideas for other moments, and just to conclude, because after we need to go as well. So thank you. I would like to thank a lot the NLS partners. For example, Lynn Kilpatrick works with us. For example, doing 10 days, we have data map, so it's very good partnership. And thanks all the local community, OpenStreetMap community for their welcome and yeah, for helping us basically. You can go on the website. The website is quite crap because the map is more beautiful than the website. But we will propose a new version of the website with all the tools you saw. The code will be open source. Everything is open basically. Don't care, and we use that as you want. We have a Twitter account, but as I already said, we don't tweet. But we will do, for example, when we have enough things like the tram, the pubs, etc., it needs to keep a kind of good reason until the end of the project. And you can contact us with messaging. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. We've got a few minutes for questions. I think there might be. No, that's fine. We're ahead.
Storing a lot of information about old maps and comparing history with even 100 years ago. OpenStreetMap also has an edit history going back as far as that. Are you storing something similar? Are you storing it in the OpenStreetMap edit history, or are you storing it somewhere else?
So tomorrow, team watchers will talk about this with OpenStreetMap. We are very aware of the project. You can see at the moment there is no real data model behind that, so it's very difficult to store things in that. So after we have to edit that and to say these buildings have been here from that day to that date, and then to edit something on top of that and to say, okay, but there was a change here, that's quite difficult. So the idea here is that to keep the OpenStreetMap format, to edit everything, and we will release the former version of OpenStreetMap based on the historical map as Western data. So basically, it will be possible to integrate that into the historical OpenStreetMap. We did the same in Paris when we did the Alpage project in Paris. So there was to reconstruct an old plan of the 19th century, the first kind of cultural plan of Paris. We released the data as a DDL to be compatible with OpenStreetMap, but also with historical OpenStreetMap. But at the moment, we are just we are the three of us working on person. For example, Michael, she is very or this kind of thing. But we try to find a good compromise with the tools, with the data. So that's not to go against the project or anything, because we keep the same structure, the same model, and the same tools to edit, for example, also. But yeah, I think it was not possible to integrate OpenStreetMap because there was more, there was too many questions. We don't know to answer that. But team will talk about that. So I think. Yeah.
How long till you finished, or how long do you think it's going to take to get everything up to the level you need?
By 1911, I think we'll finish that before Christmas. No, that's for sure. 1911, and then after we can talk about that. We asked about the grants now, but we asked for a follow-on grant, and we didn't receive the answer, but we should have the answer soon.
If you could just pray to the HRC, whichever God you can, that's fine. So we're hoping to get some first funding. If that's the case, then doing the whole of it with current will be possible. If we don't get it, then we'll be needing a lot of volunteers to do some legwork. But it will only really make good sense because we haven't showed much today about areas as the vectorization of the boundaries. We haven't shown much of that today. Of course, much of the data is collected nowadays in that form. So, for the point of view of city government or businesses or practicality or everyday living, we kind of need to get that whole Edinburgh field. Otherwise, the calculations that you make about the density of something or the frequency of something else doesn't really make much sense. So, we need to get that done. And we'll be reliant on some of you folks, I think, to get it done if the HRC don't produce some cash.
Yeah, I think it's it's been amazing to see it happen. But I think people have been mapping locally, and we thought maybe it was going to be the government. We thought maybe it'd be a commercial company, but no, the historians.
The historians, yeah.
The rescue. So great. Thanks for that. Right, next. So next we've got Becca and Duncan, of course, from Pigeon Perfect, who are talking about creative OpenStreetMap practices. So
projects just to talk about how we did some work. So this is us in Venice, working to connect with communities there about how their place is changing, the fact that Venice is basically just Disneyland, and that we were holding this big dinner to talk about that. But it's also those innovative approaches to engagement and innovative approaches to getting people to participate in urban spaces. So again, we ran a similar project back in Glasgow, in the east end of Glasgow, looking at the changes that are happening in the virus, using similar tools, but again, that was all speaking about where they were and what happened and how it was changing. And we made some really lovely changes out. This is a project we did in Cumbernauld, head of population and understanding of the town, and getting people to understand those roots and that connection between the two. Doing that through both exploration, but also through artworks. This is in the shopping centres, working with artists to develop these new projects. And again, a similar theme, our work with Commonwealth Games off the back of all the velocity mapping was to develop an art strategy that went along London Road, which connected temporary works like this one with more permanent works over the course of the Commonwealth Games. So that's embedding mapping and artwork and creativity into strategic planning in our cities. That has people on site are running right now. So we're currently doing a building, one of our first, and we've been using OpenStreetMap as a basis for all of our drawings. This will be going on site, and that's kind of thinking back into the projects we've been doing. So this will use OpenStreetMap to get a highly conceptual model, isn't it? If we get that one, yeah. So this model doesn't look like it is actually full of OSM data to give us the right heights for surrounding buildings and for our own project. Okay, so that's the OpenStreetMap. First project is, I'm going to talk about its future maps. So many of you will know the Open Glasgow demonstration projects set up by, funded by the Technology Strategy Board and run predominantly through Glasgow City Council, which had its own failings and benefits. But we were tasked to give a mapping demonstrator that would work with a digital literacy project, more so than mapping perhaps. I think they felt the output would be more about literacy, and in fact I think we managed to do both quite well. So why map? You all know this. Why? We do, we map because it's a great use of skills and a great way of increasing digital skills, increasing competence. It supports participation, better understanding of the connections and networks all around us, and a greater awareness, most particularly for us, is that awareness of local stories and points of interest that we wanted people to kind of come to us with. It wasn't us telling them how their communities work, it was us going, we know nothing about you and your place, what is it that is important to you? And then out of that came a really easy to access load of citizen level information about how to access services, including health, support, and community groups and retailers. So we started with digital. We started with analog mapping before we moved on to digital. We started by getting people to use a tool they were evidently very comfortable with, a paper map with little map markers. Started to get them to think about where they were, how they felt about where they were, and where it was. Pointing on simple things like, where I live. Where's my grandma live? Particularly for the kids, how do I get to school? Like sorting out those basic things for Germans and building that up into this is one of our groups in Easter House. And at the beginning of the workshop, one was told me there's nothing to do in Easter House. There is nothing to do in Easter House. And I said, okay, that's fine. He went, yeah, but on Monday I go to this class, and on Tuesday I volunteer here, and on Wednesday I do that. And I said, great, you've got something for every day of the week. There's nothing to do in Easter House. So getting people to map through their own day-to-day experiences of that. And then moving them slowly and at a pace they were comfortable with onto using digital mapping tools. We used OSM as our basic tool. We used it through various apps. What's the one on the iPad? Pushpin on iPads, but also the OSM editor on the screen. And we also used Mapbox and the video one. Mapillary, although it didn't really work. And getting people to map. So this group in Murray Hill, they mapped Syria for us, and then mapped places that hadn't previously been put on. So we added a whole heap of mosques and community groups that these guys were using, that no one else added yet. So that's it. That's running through the tools. We've used analog mapping, moving on into digital mapping. This is the range of everything we used. We also did something, the guy in the middle with the pen, is doing something we called no-map mapping, which is mapping from memory to see how people understood their space before we even got anywhere near what it actually looked like. So this is the types of map we use. We use lots of different tools over the course of 4 months, really. But we had 300 mappers on each type, so both digital and analog. Obviously, some people never quite made it to the digital. Other people really enjoyed the digital and only spent about 3 seconds on the analog. It's a little sensitive to get away. And we did use field papers to go out and do some actual surveying, when we could get groups who were able to come on that journey with us, and we did that as well. So the whole project was based around these 6 initiatives that we're looking at. So citizen mapping at Easter House, we were given a particular group there that needed quite an in-depth level of contact. There were a support group for the community, and that was about building them a map that they could use ongoing. All of that information was stored in one guy's head, and it was about getting it out of his head and onto paper, and not just a big piece of paper with pins in it behind his desk, which was the next best thing. We wanted to look at mapping social enterprises in Glasgow, which we used on OSM. We kind of played around with that tool a little bit and had one that was branded on Glasgow, but it was still the same open source. Young city mapping was mapping through children's eyes, and actually we mapped quite a lot of schools, mapped their playgrounds, mapped their spaces. One of the schools we worked with was a new school and didn't exist, so we mapped the entire thing from their point of view. Mapping parties was less of a good one. Through network, was mapping through community gardens and community growing spaces. We got quite into the concrete garden in the north of Glasgow, mapping what was in each of their allotment beds by season, and then looking at heritage mapping, working to kind of, we didn't get nearly as far as the historical mapping of Edinburgh, but looking to map some key places in Dennis and Can I look really quickly through these? think it shows the breadth of work that we've done and how we've got people to do it. So these teenagers at the top were really, really unimpressed about having to leave their community group to have to go out in the world with some pieces of paper and write things down. I was so impressed. And they were very, very happy when we got to the back and actually write it all down on the computer. That was fine. But going out and looking at stuff, not so fun. And then mapping green spaces. So with this guy at the bottom, he helps us map. But if you look at the concrete garden in Glasgow, it now has all the beds laid out, and it's based on a modular system. So we can do one bed and then use JOSM to copy it and paste it. So that's all going on. There's strawberries and one of them says like Becca's bed and stuff, which is all made by people. And we get heritage mapping again. So we did some on-street work with analog maps, and then going in and doing digital work. Yeah, it's you.
And I'm fine today. So there was a very good reason why we wanted to use OpenStreetMap. I think aside from the kind of idea that this is open Glasgow and everything's meant to be very open, there was no tool made available to us that would ensure legacy of the data that we were collecting. So putting all of that into all of the data gathered by into OpenStreetMap means that it's accessible for all. So there's a kind of legacy. Also, it's just ease of use. As a tool, it's fantastic. You teach you to use ID. We don't really need to sit beside them and take them through that process. There is a lot of work built into the tool. So there's a little bit of workflow. It's really important to reiterate that we are coming at this from a totally different background. We are not people with GIS skills whatsoever. We sort of learned basic OpenStreetMap stuff. And I kind of got involved in OpenStreetMap sort of 2 or 3 years ago. And it's amazing watching the gulf between what I understand and what is being, the kind of skills in the room, kind of expanding all the time to the scary. So in terms of how we run workshops, we would set up some we'd encourage people to create their own code accounts where they were keen to do so. We also set up a few kind of picture perfect accounts or workshop specific accounts that we would encourage people to use. And that allowed us to keep a good track of all the edits that were being made within that workshop. So participants would sit and they would use OpenStreetMap or they would use whatever the other tools we were encouraging them to make use of. Add data, we would then use Overpass Turbo to pull out data, which is intuitive enough that I can get my head around it, which is handy. GeoJSON files, and then we would keep that as packaged databases, which kind of was fed into the Open Glasgow project for different means. But we used it ourselves for visualizing some of the data that we were producing. So here's people mapping. It was kind of chaotic a lot of the time. Sometimes you'd be doing like a workshop with 20 school kids and there maybe be 2 facilitators and you'd be frantically running around the room watching as they're changing the names of everything. So, it's live databases.
I think once the whole of Cathcart got changed to Paula's house, that got very quickly changed back, but she hadn't quite been listening. When we said about maybe not making changes, we were totally certain we understood.
People pressing the button that makes everything circular. So like all the allotments in the west end of Glasgow being turned into big circles. And I don't really understand how to revert changes, so there's a lot of after workshops going, put this back together again. But super fun, and maybe there's a case to be made for some sort of tool that provides a kind of an arm's length edit, which could be then be kind of fed into OpenStreetMap. That's way over our heads. That's using Pushpin, which is quite an easy, intuitive iPad app. So yeah, we use Overpass Turbo. So I think this was the edits that were made on the Picture Perfect accounts, one of a number of different Picture Perfect accounts made over the course of the project. So we just pull all of that data out and then visualize it. So this is one. This is basically a timeline of all the edits that were made as part of our kind of project over the course of July to September. So what was 1,328 nodes added. That's not kind of, that might be a polygon with a dozen nodes on it counting as part of that. But there is
The slide camera.
so those are all coded by the different initiatives that we're running. So you can see some areas of the school here in the southwest was, young city mapping, or some of the mapping parties were working with specific organisations, kind of community of interest in a specific location. So that's engagement.
Yeah. So in terms of who and how we got in touch with people, we had about 3 months. The project itself ran for a bit longer, but we had about 3 months talking to people over 6 initiatives. Used 11 months in 30 sessions. Quite a long and quite a tough summer. Of that was 32 different organisations with 328 people. It was 355 points, 25 lines, and 135 polygons made up that number, which, given some of the, I'm going to talk a little bit about the fact that there was failure in this project, and that was quite an experiment. It kind of worked and it kind of didn't. We tried really hard to make sure that we had, in terms of gender split and age splits, that we had kind of good representation for different people. On our own, we did hit a particularly high number of 11 to 18-year-olds. We did very proud to get to the 51-49% statistic over really happy. So those are the groups we worked with across the city. And we tried again to make sure that we spread apart with the support of Glasgow. And these are the participants. We managed to get participants in every single postcode except G1. And I don't believe anyone lives in G1. So that's absolutely fine as far as I'm concerned. And we also got people from who are technically outside of Glasgow. We were very much limited by this city boundary, given it was a Glasgow City Council project. Anything that went over that boundary, a toe step over it, wasn't counted. So in terms of the experimental approach, it was a bit of a kind of trial and error. Every single workshop was a new group of people, a new testing of how it would work. Would we have enough laptops? Would we have the internet that worked? We were working in schools with community groups who do not have either laptops, iPads, any sort of tablet, or the internet, usually. So we were taking along all of that sort of stuff. And it was really interesting to be part of a project where failure was to be expected and where failure was not a thing. It hadn't gone wrong. We just knew not to do it that way ever again. By the end of it, we got really, really good at just running in and being like, right, you do this and you pop that and it's all done. Excellent, we never do it all the time. But it was about being intuitive and allowing large numbers of people to get involved and to get a little inkling of how they could use this sort of thing in their day-to-day lives, but also as part of the organisations they were there representing or there as part of. It was exploring and adapting. As we got through it, it was refining through that feedback. So we did go back and do a lot of second workshops towards the end of that 3 months. And with those groups, it was about finding and feeding back on how we were engaging them with the mapping and getting them to say, actually, I don't understand when you talk about it that way. How about we just say, this is the way we map? Right? That works for you, and that's the one we're going to work with. We also used particularly in Easter House, we used a trainer approach. So looking at training up 5 of the guys from the community group as trainers for everyone else. So that is the only part of it. There was one particular tool which is still just about running. It's based on we're less happy about this. We wanted it to be a nice open, wonderful database. It's actually based on a WordPress theme that's designed for restaurants. We've got 6 restaurants in the city. It's not great. It's got about 500 points in the database from this group of users, and it will slowly die a death because the technology is not keeping up with what's not really built right. But they have a trainers, and they are learning how to map. And one of those trainers is a guy who didn't have an email address when the project started. So he's gone from I can't even turn a computer on to I'm now the lead moderator on this mapping, which is a really good. Over 3 months, he took a massive leap up, and his particularly for him, but other leading project was that kind of confidence and understanding of what's going on. It was all about that kind of journey, peer-to-peer learning as a coach, and allowing allowing people to come along with us up to where they felt comfortable with technology, and then back away from it if they completely didn't understand, but they'd already got the idea about when that data. So that will be. There has been stuff coming out with the Future Maps project, but it's coming out in dribs and drabs. They have the data that we've created, so we've collected. They have all that somewhere in their database at the moment, and they are slowly opening up some of those streams. Others will not yet open, which is good. That's open on to you again. Open street map other projects.
So that project has been a very steep learning curve for us. Not really being experts in OpenStreetMap a great deal. But we have sort of tried to see where we can apply this in other projects, and asset mapping as a community engagement process within the built environment is a really powerful tool. Like the best engagement processes should start right at the beginning with an understanding of what it is that people appreciate within their environment before you start doing any sort of work. So there's a few projects where we have used OpenStreetMap as a tool. So this project called Creative Lagos, which we're just really starting at the moment. One of our colleagues, Dali, has family links in Nigeria, in Lagos, and he's working on a project that's funded by the British Council to develop a kind of understanding of the network of creative hubs, creative spaces within Lagos, which is a really kind of interesting emergent city on the kind of global sphere.
So it's eating people and it's growing faster than Google can map it right now. So there's lots of parts of Lagos that are not mapped anywhere, not on anything anyone could recognise, and a lot of the addresses are all wrong anyway. So if you do find out Google, it's on a certain wrong place.
So OpenStreetMap is a fantastic tool to use as a base for starting to make a map of where are these creative hubs and how can you understand the networks of creativity that are happening in the city. So we're building a map really that is just a database of interesting places. So we're starting, our colleagues going out to Nigeria in a few months' time to really do a lot of networking on the ground. We're starting for what he's got in his head and what we can sort of find out. So we're going to be building a database of places and using that to kind of leverage a conversation with the local community and then with we as an organisation are represented out there. And that's again about putting that data into OpenStreetMap and then pulling it out. We're not very technically savvy, but we can at least kind of build databases through that process using OpenCloud Circle. This is a completely different use of OpenStreetMap. So this is an artwork. This is a project we did for Such Books Trust last August. Where we helped to work with different artists to build temporary artworks in libraries all over Scotland. One of which was in Lerwick and Shetland by Rosemary Cunningham. It's a flag with a kind of bespoke designed flagpole and a flag on the top of that that was designed through workshops with local kids. Not very OpenStreetMap so far. We had to put in planning permission drawings for this. So I spent, so that's the drawings. Like a really nice afternoon just mapping the buildings in Lerwick. And yes, so now I have a lot of buildings, so that's all the edits that I made in a nice afternoon. And used part of that data to build this planning permission drawing. As far as I'm aware, that's the only OpenStreetMap derived drawing in the planning system, but I could be wrong.
Can we get back on the screen? We'll get a photo of it.
The next one.
So some people here may have contributed to the success of that artwork. And I as an architect with a kind of interest in open stuff generally, I'm really interested in how can architects make use of open data best. Architects when they think about data, they just get a CAD plan off the Ordnance Survey and they know how to manipulate it enough to look really sexy, which is mostly what we kind of care about. But there's a really interesting reciprocal arrangement that might exist between architects who make use of open data and then they provide some of the value that they've added to the drawings back into some sort of database. And I don't know if that's with OpenStreetMap, it might be a bit complicated, but OpenStreetMap, it doesn't have a level of detail in some respects that architects require. So, there's an interesting question there. So We could use OpenStreetMap as a tool for group engagement. So like this is a workshop we did with an organization called Sea Change as part of the Future Maps project. Sea Change have a kind of user kind of client base who use Sea Change as a supported living and supported employment organization.
So the majority of their service users have some form of learning disability or learning difficulty, which ranges from mild to quite severe. So we're working with both staff and service users in this workshop.
Yeah, so we ran a mapping party for the staff and service users, which was great fun, and people really kind of were expecting to use OpenStreetMap as a tool to map the assets. We don't have the technical know-how to build a tool, so you could put data into OpenStreetMap, but we didn't have the ability to then make that data useful to that group. How do you hold that layer, the useful layer of very personal information? You kind of take it out of the map once it's in there already. So we created this to just pull it out and put it into Mapbox, which is a tool that we know how to use, which is great for them because they've got a map. But it would be fantastic to have to work with people of a kind of technical ability that would be able to develop a tool that would get data out of OpenStreetMap as easily as we can put it into OpenStreetMap. Like a wheel map is a really great example of a tool built for a community of interest. The wheel map takes every single point of interest in OpenStreetMap, and you can toggle whether it's accessible for wheelchair users. Now imagine if you could do that for any community of interest. They could toggle on or off points that are relevant to them. And
certainly the sea change would have been interesting for them to toggle off. A lot of them get very nervous in big groups, so toggle off from non-places that are comfortable to be in versus places that are uncomfortable if you are nervous or anxious. And a lot of that was tied into so the service users were kind of like, I'd really love to stay in places where I feel comfortable just sitting and being, and places where I'm definitely on guard. And that being those two places, as well as sort of accessibility in all of its meanings, not just whether or not you can wheel in and wheel out again. So again, that's something we certainly spoke about a lot during Future Maps, was this idea of accessibility and what that actually means.
Great opportunities for creative kind of ways and approaches to engagement. There's also fun ways of using OpenStreetMap data in a design sense. We have in terms of producing some drawings. I've played around with it a bit, so not really. I don't think there was some high information that we did get out for models moving into this project, but this isn't OpenStreetMap data or survey data. There are some great tools that are starting to be developed. It's called CAD Mapper, which you can grab a tile of CAD data for use in architectural drawings and other sort of design drawings, and that can be turned. So this is not in CAD Mapper. This is a project I worked on prior to Moving Perfect, which some people might have seen presented at a previous state of the map. But using OpenStreetMap data to visualize architectural work would be fantastic. It would be a great tool for architectural students, because we spend, in architecture school, we spend countless hours redrawing like maps, CAD maps that we get from probably pretty illicit sources. Architects should be part of that community of people who are making a better map, and at the moment they're not, despite spending countless hours in front of programs drawing spaces. 3D printing stuff, Gary is here who took that data and produced a 3D print, and I'll bring this. I'm going to be at the workshop on Sunday, so I'll bring this along, and we might be doing some more 3D printing of kind of OpenStreetMap data. Fun.
How would you design them?
Yeah.
Making site maps if you just print it out. Brilliant.
And it would take that power away from us as well, which is good. Like if the community did that without having to go through kind of gatekeepers like architects, and that would be the better. So yeah.
Great. Got a couple of questions.
So
Anyone?
yeah. So how do we? So in a way, it should be easy to engage architects relative to engaging school children or someone who's never used a computer. Why is it so hard?
I think we just don't know it exists.
Yeah.
And knowing and that being an easy point when you're coming to do that end of drawing, you just want to get it as well. So you don't necessarily. I don't know how many architects would at that point go, right, just let's start project first. I'm going to go map the whole of my site when I know I can get it.
Yeah. So
anyway, so it's that ease of transfer, and ease of getting it, and knowing that if you put something back in later, then you'll kind of pay good dues to get that back out.
Yeah. Was it worth that time you spent mapping for the planning permission versus pulling the map out and just going for that?
We probably could have gone through Shetland Council and gone through their open ordnance survey licensing process and signed up on all sorts of stuff. But I think we were pressed for time.
So actually, in your case, it was actually quicker to just use open because you knew.
It's a small enough location that it wasn't an issue. Like if I was to do a location plan faster, I would have passed them on that. Yeah, it was definitely like a time saving.
Was there another question over there? Oh.
Oh, I was waiting my head.
Oh.
I do actually have a question. So one of the things you were saying was about the when you were doing the workshops in the community areas, a lot of it's mapping.
Yeah.
So mapping of a lot of like the predominant species, which is great. I think it's a great thing. At the moment, we just do a lot. Were there any other sort of things that some of the participants said we should put this on the map? Doctors did.
Within the allotments themselves?
Or any of them?
I think quite a lot of the allotment groups that we worked with were social enterprises, or they were communities of people who wanted to have allotments or community kind of software spaces within the community garden. Often their participants or users would be they'd be from kind of other programs within the city. So
I think actually the thing that came up probably most predominantly with all of the groups was volunteering opportunities. A lot of the groups we worked with were alcohol awareness projects, integration networks. A lot of people we worked with were unemployed, either through choice or through circumstance. So there was a lot of people who were looking for kind of things to do, and volunteering and service opportunities were things that they wanted to map or wanted to have mapped for them. So they wanted to say, I know if I go here on a Tuesday morning, they're always looking for people at the shop there to do volunteering for this. So I think that sort of level of mapping, that sort of level of opportunity as well as assets, like a thing being there is well enough, but what that gives you is spelling it out for some people, saying this thing is useful because that needs to happen.
Thanks, just a quick question.
Yeah, you gain experience with different kinds of communities, rural, urban communities, and different purposes. So the thing is that, as I think we talked about, the level of detail, and when you work with it, you have to map basically so that the roads and the buildings. But most of the time, people expect that in the map. So after some of the you have the feeling that people just move away from the map because there are people. And my question at the end is why, for example, Open Data and the issues with Open Data never took the decision to employ some people like us, like what we really used to pay them like that, like many companies do not the Open Data because at the moment, well, we can see the Open Data, the data,
I think we actually spoke about this at the Open Knowledge Foundation thing afterwards. It would have been a really good opportunity for them to do that, and the fact they didn't is their decision, and they haven't taken some of the opportunities that Open Glasgow offered them, and one of them was the mapping. I think where we had maps that were empty, people took it upon themselves to add the things they felt they knew. So mostly our data was points, but there were a couple of people who added new roads and added new buildings, where they felt confident enough to do that within the confines of our 2-hour-long workshops. So although they did expect it, I think some people found that joy in having a map that was unfinished and being able to go, actually, another thing, it's not here, I'm going to do it. Whereas most other people were adding point data, so they were saying, this number is actually that. What's in here is actually this, it's not that anymore.
I think it's the same motivation that really drove a lot of people the kind of geeky people that first came to OpenStreetMap, 5 to 10 years ago, that kind of blank canvas opportunity to play around with. Some people are really inspired by that, and some people sort of probably kind of put off because they can't orientate themselves.
Yeah. Because your company, so is it easier, for example, to work with a full map, full of detail? Is it easy to say, you can do more things, you have more business, and basically you reinvest this in the industry. So basically, often that's what we have critical map. Because you have more companies, you train and things, and people more involved, and that's the
See if you could write to us to City Council and tell them that. That'd be handy.
I think we can carry this on a bit longer in the pub. We've got. Yeah. Yeah. We've got last speaker today, now Shona from Scottish Government, talking about GIS and open data and what's been happening.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry, it's like to take just a minute.
hopefully, we tested that before. So
Oh, caps lock. Was it?
all right.
Okay, thanks. So, I guess I'll start off with just telling you a little bit about who I am and where I work and things like this. So, yeah, I'm Shona. I head up the GIS team within the Scottish Government. We're not a very big team, we're quite small, there's only 5 of us. And I think I'll tell you a little bit about the type of work that we do within the Scottish Government. The other reason I'm here, I guess, is to talk to you a little bit about Scottish Government's policy on open data. I have to just give a bit of a disclaimer here. I'm not the policy lead on open data, although I know quite a lot about it. So if you've got any really technical questions, I might not be the best person to answer it. But we'll go through some of the headings of open data. So yeah, I'm going to just run through an overview of open data. I'll probably talk a little bit about how spatial information in GIS is helping sort of colour those policies. And then I'll talk a little bit about the importance of GIS to Scottish Government. Now, I think the last talk was really interesting because it talks about community involvement and in creating that map. My team are looking at things at a national level, and it's there to build an evidence base to help people make policy decisions within the Scottish Government. So I'll talk a little bit about the type of work that we do, the type of data sets we produce, and the type of policies that ask us to get involved. So to give you a little bit of background, and again, there's lots of links all the way through this, so I'll give it to somebody to post and can go and look to your heart's content. But the Scottish Government have a digital public services strategy called Scotland's Digital Future, and that sets out really a plan for how to effectively use public sector data within Scotland. So as part of that, they set up something called the Data Management Board, which is not just public sector, it does have a couple of private companies involved in it as well. And they are looking at how you can use data within Scotland and make it more accessible and more open. So they published the Data Vision for Scotland, which was probably a year or two ago now. It set out its overarching objective as champion and unleash across Scotland trustworthy uses of data for public benefit. And obviously, open data is very much a key component of that overarching data vision. So, I'll give you links to this later on, but what came out of the data vision was this idea of setting out an open data strategy for Scotland. Now, open data and data management is very much what we would call a a devolved matter within the Scottish Government, so there are lots of decisions being made about open data for the rest of the UK. In Scotland, we have our own policies and set our own route for it, although some of it does follow what's going on in the rest of the UK. I mean, you're probably all aware of all of this type of information. I'm probably preaching to the choir to an extent about what were the drivers and the benefits and various things like this around open data. So on one hand, you have the sort of social and economic benefits. This idea that access to open data will, allow innovative use of some of the data that's held by the public services or sectors in Scotland. It will allow improved delivery of public services, and it will make a little bit of transparency in some of the decisions that are made by Scottish Government and the wider public sector bodies as well. But there's also a whole range of other bits of legislation that drive this as well. I mean, from my perspective, the main one is this European Inspire Directive, which is all about making environmental data that we use for day-to-day decision making, making that accessible. You have the Directive on Use of Public Sector Information, Freedom of Information, and Environmental Information Regulation as well. And again, all of these are kind of drivers and pushers for this open data strategy that was developed. So there's been a little bit of progress. I mean, it was a strategy that was just published at the end of last year, so there's still quite a lot of work and development to be done. But we've got some areas where we have got quite a bit of progress, and a lot of things are around spatial data as well. Inspire has been in place for quite a long time now, and all public sector organisations have had to be publishing their spatial data for a few years. So we have a site called the, well, it's actually missed out word there, the Scottish Spatial Data Discovery Infrastructure. And what this is basically a site where all the public sector record metadata about the spatial data that they hold, and we also publish links to their web services. So that's for things like web mapping services and web picture services. So it's a place that you can go and look and find URLs and things like this to get access to their data. Now, it's not particularly user-friendly. If you're good at GIS and you understand how to use web services, great. If you don't, it's probably not that helpful. So there are a whole number of other, portals, if you want to call them that. There's lots of other terms for them. Somebody called them an arcade the other day because you're looking at, you walk into something and you use lots of different tools within that arcade. So one is Scotland Environment Web, which again, many of you have heard of already. But this is really, a place that people can go to look and find this trustworthy data that's being published by public sector organisations around the environment. And that Scotland Environment Web has a whole range of other websites associated with it, daughter sites, so things like Scotland Soil. So you can go and get access to information about soil data in Scotland at that website. And SE Web will simply link you back into the organisation whose data is they're showcasing, and you'll be able to get access to it. So those two are very much around spatial data. We also have a replacement for something called, so Scottish Neighbourhood Statistics. So that was a site that used to publish all of the statistics that were collected by Scottish Government at specific, what we call data zone level, and made them available for people to go and type in their postcode and it would tell you, how to tally the area that you're living in, what kind of a whole range of different stats data. So this replacement is really trying to push forward the way that we publish our data. So it's looking at publishing everything as linked data. So one of the, aims of the open data strategy is to make sure that the public sector is looking at following the 5-star idea of publishing your data, machine readable, and then at the very highest level publishing it with data. So this is a test site to look at how we can publish stats data following linked data theories. So it does actually have some spatial data in there as well. And again, this is probably a little bit beyond me, but it does have some GeoJSON data in there as well that I think people can access. So that's, some of the progress that we've made on it, but I think there's a big understanding that a lot of organisations, or public sector organisations, perhaps don't have the ability or know how to actually start making their data more accessible and more open. So, as I said, we developed the strategy, but alongside the strategy, the Open Data Policy team have been working on an Open Data Resource Path. And what this does is it really tries to pull together lots of bits of information about how people can go and publish the data that they hold, how to make it open. So again, if you want any, if you want to investigate this yourself and see all the information that's in there. There's a little bit about Inspire as well, the ways that you can publish your data to Inspire. There's also an open data training program that's being worked on as we speak. And there is a knowledge hub site that people can join, and that will give you a lot of information about what's going on in terms of open data. So, I mean, that was my very quick run through of open data. As I say, it's not necessarily my policy area, but if people have got any questions, then please let me know. But now I'm going to talk a little bit about GIS within the Scottish Government and how we use mapping. I guess looking at how what we do often gets put out there into the wider environment for people to access as well. So, I mean, I'm just going to run very quickly through, what the team do, aside from being an analytical team, who our customers are. We produce, I guess, a couple of data sets that I would say of national importance. They're used for lots and lots of purposes, and they underpin the way that we run lots of things in Scotland as well. And I'll talk a little bit about some other policy analysis. I have to say, we don't tend to use OpenStreetMap within Scottish Government, and having heard you use SotM, I'm trying to wonder why we were using it, so I maybe need to have a little bit of a think about the data that we do use. So, as I said, I head up this team, there's about 5 of us. We do spatial analysis, so we're an analytical team, that is all we do. We don't manage data, we don't do anything like that, so we have that data and we carry out analysis and give people within Scottish Government that evidence that they're looking for. However, in addition to that, we do have a couple of other roles that we play. And I know there's been lots of talk about urban survey already, but unfortunately my job, one of my big roles, is to manage the agreement that the Scottish Public Sector have with ordnance survey. So I have to make sure that everyone is following the licensing that they're supposed to be following, that they pay me lots of money so I can pay ordnance survey for access to this data. I also manage a couple of other procurements for data, air photography, and some other remote sensing data procurements as well. Again, we've been working really hard, maybe it doesn't seem like that, on both of these, both ordnance survey and air photography, to make sure that any data that we create from both OS and from the air photography can be put out under open data licenses as well. So, we do try and make sure that we're going to buy data that we use in the public sector. Although we might not be able to give that data away for free, what we create from it can be put out under an open data license. I also have to make sure for SIN that every public sector organisation in Scotland is meeting Inspire. So that, again, just involves making sure there was a way of how they go about publishing the data. And we also manage the SSDI that I was talking about earlier as well. This probably won't be an awful lot, but it's just showing the various different parts of Scottish Government that we work for. The main one is environment, and we do a lot of work. We do essentially quite a lot of work on these areas for the inside this as well. So yeah, I'm going to just again run through this idea of what data sets do we create within Scottish Government that we then make available for other people to use. And I think there's quite a few of the data that we create that does actually have this national importance. It does get used for lots of purposes, and it underpins a lot of funding within Scotland. This is just a quick, I'm sure all of you know this is the geography hierarchy that we have in Scotland, which is our postcodes create our census output areas. Census output areas are used to create data zones, which are the statistical geographies for Scotland, so lots and lots of information is published at that level. And then we have intermediate geographies and local authorities, and they all fit together. But one of the big geographies, I guess, for Scotland are data zones. And it was my team's job to look at redrawing them, and at the end, there had been a census in 2011. And obviously, because of that, there were changes in population, various things, and we wanted to change the data zone boundaries to sort of take in that new information that we've got from the census. So we were really involved in, well, we were the ones that redrew the boundaries, we automated it, we consulted quite widely with local authorities, although not with communities themselves, I have to say. So we do stop at a certain level of engagement, and we went as far as going to the local authorities. And then looked at the changes. Now these data sets are, again, open data sets. You can go away and get data and values and do whatever you want with them. We used them for another big project that does take us quite a long time to do, which is the Scottish Index of Multiple Deprivation. So this is really looking at where are all the deprived areas in Scotland, and there's a whole range of different domains that and information pulled together from these various different domains to give the overall ranking of deprivation. Again, this data will be published on the Scotland Statistics paper site that I was showing you earlier on. But we also publish the sound and spatial data as well. So we were involved in doing this access name, which is just looking at basically both your drive times and public transport times. So that's using all the bus timetables and the ferry routes and live drive times, live driving times as well. And we have to make quite a lot of decisions about what software, what release, and things like this that we use. And again, that's been published as open data. And I guess what I wanted to do here was just show, this is not a statement of PDF rather than as a PowerPoint, but it was to show that a lot of these bits of work that we do actually then get used to look at how funding is spread across Scotland. So, for example, this one here that we've got is just looking at schools being given extra funding to fall in specifically deprived areas. So that was based on that bit of work that we did for SIND, which is based on the work that we did for data service as well. We also produced something called the Urban Rural Classification for Scotland, which again is really open and available, but it's the standard way for defining what are urban and rural and remote areas in Scotland. And again, it's used by a whole range of different policies to assess various different types of eligibility for funding. And again, that gets used in lots of different types of research. There's one behind it there that talks about providing extra funding to GPs that are in rural areas, and this one is about residents in rural Scotland living longer. But it gets used in a lot of research as well. So that was the kind of, the data sets that we try and make sure that are very accessible and available to everyone. But we also do very specific policy-led bits of analysis as well. And I probably won't go into these in any level of detail, to be honest, but it was just to show the type of stuff that we do. So this was looking at population dispersion, and then from that, the index that's created from that actually goes into looking at how the local authority, or the funding that go out to local authorities. So if you live in a local authority that's got quite a high level of population distribution, then we're likely to get a higher funding. So spatial data and information actually do get used for this to look at how local authorities and various different people are funded. This one is really just looking at access to services. So one of the big uses of GIS in the Scottish Government is helping us understand where people are and where the services that they want to access are situated. So this was just looking at the distances that different patients had to travel for treatment. And what we did, we did this for every single health board in Scotland to help us work out if there were some health boards that were doing taking patients over long distances, and was there any savings to be made for sharing some of that transportation costs. This one again is just looking at where various different types of hospitals are, and the various routes into admission for the hospitals. And again, where patients are coming from, how far people are having to travel to get access to them. Again, this is another example of looking at if we're subsidising people's access to, this is to do with museums, but it could be any type of service, to make sure that those people that are getting subsidies are coming from areas that are either very remote or more deprived as well. And then the last one was really just looking at ticket allocations for coming off days. So once all the tickets had been sold, there were a number that were left, and we wanted to make sure that some of those unallocated tickets went to communities that were perhaps in more deprived areas. So again, this is just a little bit of work that we did to look at where ticket sales had happened and where the deprived areas were, make sure that we could kind of identify community groups that were in those areas and give them some of these unallocated tickets. So this is another one as well, and this is looking at how. So this is to do with heat maps. So this is looking at heat demand and heat supply. So it's looking at individual properties and getting an idea of what their heat demand is, and then looking at big, like whiskey distilleries or something like this, where they are big suppliers of heat, and then starting to identify if there's any relationship between those two supply and demand requirements, and look at building networks between them as well. And again, this data is all open on Scotland's heat map that you can go and take a little look at. And anyway, that was a really fast run through of open data, and then just maybe an idea of how we use GIS in the Scottish Government. I think it's very different to the last talk, which I thought was really interesting. But this is I guess we're looking at it at a much more national level, and it's looking at how we make sure that our services are being, are effective and efficient and things like this. So that was it.
Shannon, great. Yeah, we've just lots of data out there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Straight through more then see if we can use the greats alone and do that. But yeah, we've got time for a few questions.
I didn't realise that you had a hierarchy of geography and they had different levels of disclosure. Do you publish guidance if an organisation wants to publish things that are geo-referenced, guidance on disclosure?
I don't, but we probably do. So there is within Scottish Government, there's something called Office of the Chief Statistician, and they do all the work on disclosure. So they're a bit like the equivalent of ONS, I guess, in Scotland. So I don't know exactly what it would be, but we probably do have something like that. But if you want to drop me an email, and I can find out who to speak to with that.
I'm encouraged to ask the same question. No, that you know, I don't think that. Do you want to try finding different digits, small digits, 100,000? Because you've got other street maps in Shetland, or in any small town, you see the changes. Because there was a meeting where we took next down the street for Europe, and then there were different problems. For the people here, that's why we have a website, we provide online the organic data in a village, that's what it does. So if it's possible, just be fine from that, because you pay a lot for the organic survey.
And we do pay a lot for the survey.
And if you think about 100,000, which is
that's quite a lot of money.
I'm sorry. Once again, if you study the impact of the companies like 50, they pay taxes at the end of the year. So this 100,000, if you generate 3-4 companies, then you generate income for the government. So that's the same. So it's not 100,000. And you got a lot of people here, because from America, that's why who are able to use the snow on this pavement. And this is used on the sun. They use the map. And people can communicate. Smart cities are like that, and that's the future. Well, I mean, also looking at that. This is the future. So, the thing is, it's all on today. It is all on today. It's all the micro-projects. Because you said you try finding agreement with them to use the data. But it's all correct. They're all going to do that.
I mean, these are all really difficult questions, the ones that we're talking about all the time. I mean, for ordnance survey, we do pay ordnance survey a lot of money, but it's not my money. I collect it from lots of different people, and I pay them. So, you have local authorities who are giving me money in order to pay ordnance survey. So, and I would say as well that for lots of the stuff that we've maybe talked about, you could be using ordnance survey data because you're not breaking any copyright by simply having a map that shows lots of information and allowing people to drop points on it. That is, that's not against OS copyright. So if you've got, I mean, there's questions there about understanding what you can or can't do with the data. think that's, I don't think that the actual users of local authority or public sector always understand exactly what you can do with the data, and that's probably, about communicating a little bit better with them. In terms of £100,000, I mean, I don't have a budget as such, so and lots of parts of Scottish Government are like this. We have very specific budgets for doing things in. That isn't to say that if people made a good case for it, that I would be interested and maybe have a little look around to see what there was. But for that amount of money, that's a lot of money. So I can't, I can't help you with that amount of money, sorry.
Just something supplementary to say to that. Actually, the copyright issue is important because although people may well be able to use things naturally without violating the copyright agreement, the copyright code, without knowing, without being an expert in the complex boundaries of fair use, that inhibits use in itself. The confidence of being able to use open data, knowing that it's open data, is a benefit that I don't know how readily quantifiable it is, but it should be quantifiable.
Yeah, maybe just one. Sorry, one more question. I don't know if you want to reply.
Well, I was just looking at the heat map. And as far as I can tell, you give access to an interactive map, but you don't give access to the actual data on carbon expenditure.
Sorry, so maybe it's not on there then. So the SSCI, if you go to the SSCI, you should see the web services for the heat. So the heat map is based on that portal. It's just taking in web services. So I think the web services are really open for people to use.
So there must be geocoded data about this is the carbon load in this particular area.
Okay.
And according to this, you have to fill in the form of your local authority to actually apply for access to that data. So that's very far from open data.
Well, there's two things there. So that was my miss. The raster data that tells you that's available on the heat map is freely available. The stuff that underpins that was used to create that because it's got personal data in it, I guess. So there are, and some copyrights as well, I imagine. So yes, if you want the actual underlying data that was used to create the heat map, then you will probably have to fill in some licensing. But the actual outputs of the heat map, which is the raster grids, should be, well, I'm pretty sure they're on SSCI, and you can get the web links for them.
I think when most people talk about open data, they're talking about the bulk underlying.
I mean, it's raster, and then you've got information about what so that square will have information on your car, on the peak demand and peak supply that you want for that particular area. But it's not looking at the individual houses, I guess, is what you're saying.
Well, you might want to combine the different kinds of data. You might want to do data mashup, but unless you have access to even an aggregated or anonymized form, the underlying data you can't do anything with.
So there is some data open, and there's some that's not because it's got copyright on it. So yes, there are bits of it that are open and bits of it that aren't.
Thanks, Aaron. So we've got maybe an interesting part of the day now, where we're going to sort of split up into various groups, and this could probably go horribly wrong. It seemed like a good idea at the time because it would give everyone a little bit of a break to get outside instead of being put here all day. So I have around 20 people who have signed up to go up to the map library for a tour by Chris Fleet. Now, I need like one volunteer who knows where the map library is and is going to go with that group to kind of guide them up. So is there anyone who's going on that tour?
Find it.
Yeah, okay.
I don't mind taking them down.
Okay. Okay, so there's two people there with t-shirts on, so if you signed up for that, or you've made a some agreement with Chris that you're allowed to go, then please follow Joe and Gregory up there. And then the rest of you, you're welcome to kind of stay around here, or make your way home, but please stay, and Paul is going to do a demo of drone 3D mapping in the meadows. So if you follow Paul up to the meadows, it's a short way, 10 minutes away, he'll guide you up there and show you. Yeah, that's the final. Yeah. So, what time? 5 p.m. ish. Yeah. 5 p.m. Thank you. Okay. Great. Yeah.
It's not